Checking in on the Florida governor's race, a virtual dead heat between Governor Rick Scott and Charlie Crist. Here's the new Quinnipiac University poll. It shows that Scott is at 44% among likely voters. Crist is at 42%. Checking with our power panel on this, political editor Craig Patrick and our political analyst Frank Torres. Craig, again, Quinnipiac saying a neck-and-neck race in the gubernatorial race. Rick Scott, though, is totally outspending Charlie Crist. Are we surprised in the TV ads? Are we surprised these numbers aren't further apart?
Not necessarily, for a couple of reasons. First off, remember, Rick Scott has struggled with low approval ratings from the day he took office, due largely to several controversial decisions he made in the first part of his term. So with this, you would expect him to struggle with re-election. That said, Charlie Crist had a double-digit lead just a few months ago, and with this disparity in money, again, Rick Scott continues to have a big advantage when it comes to spending and with incumbency, and with this, he has gained a lot of ground, taken a slight lead in many of the polls. But again, you can't trust the actual numbers at this point. They will vary from poll to poll. So you follow the polls at this point for movement to see who may have traction in their favor.
Frank, the economy is doing pretty well. Is Charlie Crist happy to be in the game at this point, to be, neck and neck, or does he stay the course with what he's doing, or does he try to change up his tactic in the last few weeks leading up to the election?
You've seen a couple of style changes from the Charlie Crist campaign already. You see them really digging back into the old playbook that they tried to run against Rick Scott in 2010, that being his troubled history with HCA Columbia, his old team that was found to have committed Medicare fraud. So you try a few different things with Charlie. The main thing will be the turnout, to make sure that the voters that will vote for you actually make it to the polls on Election Day.
And Craig, the Republicans are running another ad showing the infamous hug of Charlie Crist and President Obama about the stimulus package. But again, he was a Republican at the time, and the same guys who were running the Republican Party back then are running it right now. Is this something that could backfire on him?
Point taken, but I don't see it that way. That's just something that's really too complicated to effectively explain in the course of a campaign, particularly with 1 month to go. Bottom line, what you're seeing, both parties, both sides, both candidates are trying to tear each other apart. The number you watch, mid-40s. We don't see Rick Scott going over 44% in many of the polls. He goes up a couple of points, particularly with a strong showing from the Libertarian candidate. He has a good shot. But if Charlie Crist is able to continue to hammer him, meanwhile, if Scott continues to hammer Crist, what you have are two candidates who are going to be bruised up severely heading into the finish line, and that's why we may have a very, very close race with voters not necessarily heavily embracing either choice.
Frank, not to disparage, of course, there are obvious qualifications because they are there, but both have, Charlie Crist and Rick Scott have Hispanic running mates. Coincidence, or is that strategy?
Strategy out of the gate. You saw that was one of the talking points for Rick Scott when he picked Carlos Lopez Cantera earlier this year. It was definitely in the mind of Charlie Crist when he picked Annette Tadeo earlier on in his campaign. You see both of these running mates doing Hispanic commercials out in Spanish, trying to win that important and ever-growing portion of the vote here in Florida. Expect both of those running mates to dig deeper into that electorate and try to pick up as much support from those communities as possible.
Frank and Craig, we appreciate it. Looks like this thing is going to go down to the wire. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
It will. Thank you.